Look at them. Who could refuse those? They are the kryptonite of João de Nor and me as well. I seriously, John, we could eat that right now, maybe with a couple of slices of bread and butter as well. Let's not keep her waiting any longer. How rude that would be. Let's bring her onto the screen now. It's Anita, everybody. Legend.
Hola, bon dia. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to
By
you
the way, I
everyone.
love fish and chips. You would be surprised, but
I'm so
I do
glad.
love fish and chips.
Good. Because, yeah, as I said, I don't want you thinking that all we talk about on the Good Morning Portugal show is the food we miss. We do sometimes. We talk about Marmite and, you know, a cup of British Rosie Lee and some fish and chips like that. And the weird things that American people eat, Anita. You know, like marshmallows in a jar, that sort of thing.
Well, we have pretty weird meals here in Portugal, like dishes, full dishes with things that are very unlikely to be eaten. I remember my grandfather cooking frog legs, and I was a kid, and I used to look at that like, are you eating that? And he was like, yes, of course we're eating that. I'm like, wow. So yeah, that's one of the examples.
I know. I didn't realize that frog's legs were also a Portuguese delicacy. It looks like a chicken that hasn't been well fed, doesn't it? Basically.
Yes.
Yes. Here's the granddad then, and what would frog's legs be in Portuguese? Perna de sapo.
No, pernas de rã.
Pernas de rã. Why is that?
Well, you have two types of frogs, right? You have those big ones that are sapos, like the slow ones, and you have the very flexible and small ones, right? So
with the
that's
better
the
legs.
flexible ones.
Very good.
So those are the rã.
Okay, very good. And there we are with the rolling R straight away, which is key in Portuguese, everybody. I'm sure Anita's going to tell us lots of useful facts and tips about learning Portuguese this morning. And you've already got fan mail coming in here, Anita. Look, I love Anita's YouTube shorts. So does my family overseas. Look, and you are known all over the world, of course, helping people learn European Portuguese. How did you get into that? Could you tell us about, you know, the origin of this incredible enterprise of yours?
Well, I was basically in my, normal life. I used to be the pedagogical director of a micro international school here in the Algarve where I live. But I was so happy with my job. Don't take me wrong. I really loved it. But there was something missing. There was something inside me that was like, what about your dream, Anita? Is this really your dream? Because I always dreamed to have my own school. And suddenly the world changed. You have the pandemics and all of these technology coming, and the need for online to connect basically people, because people were locked in their homes, etc. So I saw there the opportunity to start something different. So basically, I left my job in school. In the following year, I didn't. I refused to be working in physical school. So I started from scratch. I started with 4 students only. It was an adventure. It was very scary, but it ended up being fantastic. And then more people heard about my lessons and they wanted to join. And my hands were so full, like in less than 1 year, I had to make some decisions. And so I was like, wow, I'm sitting in front of the computer from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. Apart from all the lessons, I was managing my social media, because I started to do things in Instagram to help people for free, on Facebook as well. So I had my hands full. So that's how it started. And then I created self-paced courses, and the rest right now,
Absolutely
right?
amazing. Absolutely amazing. And here's a website where people can find out more, of course, and more about you. This is wonderful. And I will put the link to you and your courses in the chat in just a moment. So that are 2 things there. The first of which is a message to everybody, like, follow your passion, your dream, right? There you were in a job that you liked, but something was missing. And that's often the catalyst, isn't it, for people to either choke it down, like, no, I can't do that. I've just got to keep doing what I'm doing. It's too scary to do that. Or doing it, and you like jump out of the plane and figure out how to work the parachute on the way down, which you did,
Absolutely.
which you did very successfully by the sound of it.
Well, it was not always easy. I was very scared. Like, what about my finances? Because I had a good salary as a
Yeah,
pedagogical director, you know? And everyone was like, well, everyone, most of people were like, oh, you crazy. You leaving this good, nice, permanent thing for something like you don't know. And that's what you normally hear every time you want to do something different, because people are scared for themselves. So they are scared for you too.
yes, yeah.
So most people, even, my family sometimes like, oh, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. I go for it. I feel it's the right thing to do right now. So yeah.
That must have been quite difficult then to have those. I mean, and it is, of course, coming from love, isn't it? That, as you say, that there is their own fears that they're
Absolutely.
projecting onto you. But
Exactly.
it does come from love, I think, which is, they don't want any harm to come to you. They don't want you to throw a good career away. But there was something, as the old song goes, something inside so strong that couldn't be. Presumably, you wouldn't have forgiven yourself at this stage if you hadn't taken the leap. And thank goodness.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. And you're very successful now. And the other part of that, of course, is how, so many lives have obviously been changed by the pandemic and what went on, and how society and life changed. And for you, in a good way, you saw how life and culture was changing and what the possibility could be, and went, all out online, as it were, and have created this wonderful output. So could you tell us about the various services and products that you're offering to people?
Yes, of course. So I created some online self-paced courses where basically people can learn at their own pace. It's
Yeah.
like self-studying. So these are pre-recorded courses, but I didn't want people to still feel lonely, even though it's self-study. So I created a system where people can still have me as, to support them with questions, to practice as well, because as you know, Portuguese is a language that it's challenging. Let's not say difficult, but let's say challenging. And people need to practice loads. And if you leave them by themselves, it can be quite scary.
Yeah.
So I found strategies where we have this conversation room where I go and I meet them. They practice with me. They expose their questions if they have questions. It's very good. Plus, you make them connect as well. I have students who become friends, and they meet for coffees and they study together, they practice Portuguese together, which is, I believe, in my opinion, very important as well, because most people, when they move to a new country, people feel lonely. They need to make new friends, and finding someone who's feeling exactly the same way as they are, I think it's like the cherry on top, right?
Absolutely.
So that was a strategy that I created as well in my self-paced courses. So they can make new friends. They can find people to practice with them, not just the teacher. So it's fantastic. And apart from all of these, I also do webinars once in a while for free. So free lessons for people who want to start. So I can motivate them to learn the language, to show them some tips and tricks if they're already learning the language with another teacher, for example. So yeah. So I
That's
have.
amazing. So I think you're going to share your top 3 tips with us, and maybe we should do that to sort of in conclusion of our conversation this morning. But going back to, I think your reference there, it's not an easy language to learn, but we needn't make that an excuse, right? I mean, people have got so many, yours included. People have got so many resources available to them. There is no shortage of resources anymore, is there, when it comes to learning European
Oh
Portuguese?
no.
You give so much away, don't you, for free? So people don't have that
Yes.
excuse anymore that there isn't, it's not out there. I can't, you haven't got just like an old phrase book anymore, which tells you loads of things you don't probably need to know, and
Oh yeah,
very difficult
absolutely.
pronunciations. All of that's in the past now, isn't it? We've got these
Yes.
wonderful resources available
Yes.
to us. So it must be something else. And I think you've alluded to it there, and how, people work in groups and so on. What do you think is the biggest real objection and problem for people learning Portuguese?
I think I feel that most people come already with this misconception that they will never be able to speak Portuguese.
Right.
But let me tell you that you are super wrong. I have students that they are over 80 years old.
Mhm.
My oldest student, as far as I'm concerned, right, because sometimes I don't know every
Yeah.
single one, I have more than 2,000 students right now from all over the world. But I
Really?
have
2,000?
yes,
Well
yes.
done. Amazing.
Thank you. So I have this lady. She's 85 years old, and every single day I see her practicing her Portuguese, even if it's just reading the news.
Yes.
Being immersed in the language is very important, and she does that very well. She knows she has the how can I say? She has to practice, so she puts herself exposed to the language every day.
Yeah.
So I would say that there is nothing that you can't do if you really put yourself into it. So Betty is the example of that. She's 85, and every single day she practices Portuguese. She sends me message. She goes on social media. She is on social media as well.
She sounds
And
awesome. Maybe you can
yeah,
bring, maybe she'll come with you next time when you visit us.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. I'll bring Betty.
So that it's psychological then. The barrier. I mean, this is what we're talking a lot about at the moment. We're having a bit of a push ourselves in this community to, enough already with the excuses. Let's go. Come on, let's do it. We can
Exactly.
do this. We recognize it's not the easiest of languages in the world, but we're in the culture. It's important to learn, and we can so easily put it off and put it off. So we're taking action at the moment, a number of us, to learn more. And yeah, it's great to understand that the biggest barrier seems to be psychological. It's not for want of resources, is it? Or teachers,
No,
great
not
teachers.
anymore.
No, that's true. That's true. So yes, not anymore. That's an interesting point you make there. I would love to talk to you more about, where you're from in Portugal and how teaching languages has changed over the years. It
Oh,
sounds
wow.
like
Yeah.
you've always been a teacher. Is that right?
Well, I started to teach right. I finished my university degree in
Yeah.
2005, and it was very frustrating for someone like me.
Yeah.
Why for someone like me? Because I was not, let's say, I was not a conventional student myself. So I couldn't sit for more than 1 hour and being focused. I'm very visual, very creative. So if there is not enough interaction in the classroom, I would definitely fall asleep in the classroom.
Yes.
So, I remember having, throughout my academic process, I only had 1 or 2 teachers that could keep me focused with, with interactive resources and things like that. And that's what I wanted to become as a teacher, an
Yes.
interactive, creative teacher.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm with you. I should have gone to school in pajamas. The amount of time I was basically asleep, or in some catatonic state. And that is a failure of the teaching system, I think, in many
It
ways.
is.
But
It is.
we also have to take some responsibility, don't we? But when you're a school kid, you're kind of thrust into that. You don't have a lot of choice with that.
True.
So you did that, did you? You went in and revolutionized teaching.
Well, basically in 2005, and I was only 25 years old by then. I was very young. And my first experience as teaching Portuguese was to a group of expats here in Quinta do Lago, close to the place where I live in the Algarve. And
Lovely.
I was so scared, like so scared, because like they were way older than me. And I didn't want them to fall asleep in my classes, but there were no resources, right? There was nothing. So I was like, I remember calling my mom and like, Mommy, what am I going to do? These grammars are like so boring. I'm not going to use these in my classroom.
Well
And
said.
she told me something very important. Do it like it's for you.
Right.
And I will never forget this. So I started to create my own resources back then. Because again, there was nothing apart from these rusty grammars.
In the old phrase books, yeah, and like on CDs and cassettes and things
I
like that.
know,
Yeah,
right? How boring is that?
it's
Like
true.
super
It's true.
boring.
I do have a beef with teaching methods, and you and me both by the sound of it. It does work for some people. I'm not
It
knocking it
does. Yeah.
completely. It does get some people past the line, and interestingly, people who have succeeded like that or succumbed to it want to be taught Portuguese in the same way now, don't they? If what they went through at school, they expect, even you've got people who are in their 60s and 70s and even 80s who become children again in their expectation of how you're going to treat them, I suspect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, when you make people, when people are having fun,
Yes.
they are learning without realizing.
Yes. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. So
So
how wonderful that you're doing that. And so you, as a new teacher yourself, you revolutionized your approach. How did it go with those the folks in the Algarve there?
Well, they got addicted to it, so they start telling their friends, and I started to
Very
have
good.
my hands full.
Excellent, excellent. And that was the offline, old school, but new school way of
Yes,
teaching Portuguese. Who's
yes.
this? Who's joined us now?
That's Ollie, my doggy. He's very
Oh, bom
curious.
dia,
He
Oli.
will
Very
always appear.
lovely. Bom dia,
But
Oli.
he's working
Very
here.
good time to say hello. That's fantastic.
Oh.
Wonderful, wonderful. And please tell us more. I don't think you're from the Algarve originally. Are you from another part of Portugal?
I
Where did
was
you come from?
I was born and raised in Santiago do Cacém, which is a place not far from Lisbon. So it's in Alentejo coast. Lovely, always by the sea. I'm a beach girl.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah,
And then I moved to the Algarve for 25 years now. So yeah, most of my life here in the sunny Algarve, which I
wonderful.
love. I love
Yeah.
it. So yeah.
Wonderful. I'm being a teacher, and now, of course, the Portuguese with Anita. This is in terms of how you thought it would be, and when all those people saying, "Don't do it, you're crazy," throwing your career away. Just how is that for you now to be looking at this wonderful community that you have? How does that feel?
It feels great, and I'm glad I always listen to my heart.
Yes, well said. Very good.
I think we just have to follow our dreams, and that's it. You know, sometimes it can go wrong, but that's it. Keep trying until it goes right. I had bad moments, of course, like everyone.
Mm,
As entrepreneur, it's not easy.
right.
You have to pay a lot of taxes. You have a lot of
Yes. Oh my
responsibilities.
goodness, we have so
Yeah.
much in common.
Right? But
Brilliant.
go for it. It's fantastic, the feeling to wake up every single morning and knowing you're doing the right thing. You're
Yeah.
helping people, and the feeling of sometimes reading the comments and the reviews my students send me is just, I have no words for that. It's amazing knowing that I was so important, because moving to a country, it's something that it's life changing. So
Mm.
being part of that, it melts my heart. It makes everything right, make sense.
That's so superb. Right, we've got some comments coming in. Portugal is hard to learn is the worst talking point because it's not true, says Erica K. It's a beautiful language. It sounds like ocean waves. Well, fair enough. Yeah, I feel like we all need to stop saying it's hard. I
Yeah.
try and say that as
Challenging.
little as
Let's replace hard with challenging.
challenging. That's right. And I think a little bit of a nod to this is going to take a while, but we don't let it put us off. I think that's the main thing, isn't it? I love that Anita plays with the language and is so encouraging. Not a commercial, just a fan. Thank you.
Oh, beijo, Erica.
She also said, way to go, representing women athletes, Anita. What's that about? Are you an athlete as well?
Well, no. Well, I'm an amateur. I do sports, but I don't
Right.
know where that comes from.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
surf a bit. I do paddle surfing, kayaking, like water sports, but it's just for fun.
well, okay, you sound like an athlete to me anyway.
Oh.
That sounds very impressive. So, before you go, could you give us top 3 tips to get people started? And a lot of people know who they are, who say, yeah, first of all, that we know when they're coming to Portugal. Oh, yeah, I'm going to engage with the language as soon as I get there. I'll get a class, and I'll be speaking Portuguese fluently within a year. Absolutely. And then year 1, 2, 3 comes, and then now they're like, didn't go quite as I planned. And
Yes.
furthermore, Anita, they find themselves in this position when they're with Portuguese people. So have you seen this one? I think this,
Actually, no, it's the first time I'm
right.
looking in.
When 2 Portuguese native speakers include me in the conversation, that's how they feel. So I can send that to you later. So your top 3 tips to overcome that scenario.
So my first tip is, if you haven't moved yet, I suggest you start learning Portuguese before you move. So when you come to Portugal, you already feel confident with the sounds, because the sounds, it's normally what, confuses it the most, right? You need to get used to the sounds. So start learning Portuguese before you move.
Yeah,
But
very
if
good.
you already moved, try to get the most of it, like immerse yourself into the language. Go to the local cafe. If you just listen for 5-10 minutes per day, you get used to the sounds, the way we connect the words, the way we speak, the tone of voice. All of these things are very important.
Mhm.
And sometimes people just ignore that, but it's very important to see how we connect the words. You can also do that by watching series, TV series, Portuguese programs, songs. Songs are very good because there's a lot of repetition, and you can see the lyrics in the screen if you use the lyrics, for
Yes.
example.
Yeah, yeah.
So practice a lot. And the third one, of course, find a nice teacher, pick a nice course, and start learning Portuguese as it should, with a curriculum that will take you from zero to fluency. So you
Very
need to
good.
learn the rules, absolutely, not just by practicing. Practicing is an addition to your learning process with a teacher.
Okay, get yourself a teacher, and there are many wonderful teachers to choose from, including the fabulous Anita, who's been with us for the first time this morning. I hope you'll come back and talk to us from time to time. Anita, are you open to coming back? We won't just put fish and chips.
Absolutely. I had a blast. That was really good. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself. So there's a couple more comments then. Developing an ear for the language is crucial. You talked about that, of course. And then James here, who's calling himself Slow Hand, No Hand, Slow Foot. Thanks, Pointer Sisters. He's actually called James, and he talks about tuning your ear, which he got from our friend Antonio. And that's what I think is being talked about here. We didn't learn our native language in school. We learned it at home, observing, listening, mimicking, asking questions, and practicing. And it took years to master. So there you go. That's great. And realizing, oh, this is something else that Suze is talking about. We'll come back to that in just a moment, Suze. For now, we need to thank Anita for being here, and little Ollie, who popped in as well. Thanks, Anita. Have a
Thank you
beautiful
so
day.
much.
I
You
imagine
too.
it's wonderful in the Algarve today. What's your weather like?
Wow, it's probably about 25 degrees already at this time.
So muito calor
Muito
there.
calor, sim.
Muito calor in Algarve. Muito prazer. Muito obrigado.
Muito prazer, obrigada,
Take care and
Carl.
bye for now. Ciao, ciao. See ya.
Beijinhos.
Bye.
Tchau,
Beijinhos.
tchau.
Abraço. Ciao, ciao, ciao. There she goes, the wonderful Anita. And there's her website there, Meet Anita. I teach Portuguese to people who want to enrich their lives with the beautiful and romantic language of Portugal, which sounds like the ocean. I think that's a good description. So there you go, the backstory and how Anita goes about teaching you there. Love water sports, love animals, love languages, right there at Portuguese with Anita.com. Okay, let's go back to what's being said in the chat.